in a minute. Hello, hello. Sorry, we're a little bit late. We were hearing tales of Lee because he did this brilliant research about tonight's discussion: allopathic medicine, Western medicine, mainstream medicine, whatever you want to call it. And if you're struggling to think, well, what could I do as a question? I've written a little list here. My biggest issue, by the way, is they focus on symptoms. They always treat symptoms rather than addressing the underlying cause. So you could look at that. If you've got someone in your family, for instance, I'll kick off with my family. For instance, my dad died a week after being told he had a calcium deficiency, and my mum died of colon cancer with a 9-pound cancer growth, but apparently she just needed to lose weight. True stories. Sorry about that, but there you go. So that's why I'm interested in this subject. Side effects, obviously, allopathic medicine means lots of medications, overuse of antibiotics. It's a very limited approach. It's not holistic. It's very costly. There is a huge dependency on medications. Most of the procedures are invasive, aren't they, Lee? And there's a lack of preventative care. So that's the sort of subjects that we're looking at. So just going around the board, we've got Phil Escott, Ben Hunt, and Lee Copus. Is that how you pronounce that? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, excellent. So should we just sort of have a little bit from each of you regarding this subject? So, like, Phil, do you want to kick off, as we weren't expecting you?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I'll bore Ben probably, but the stuff that I've had done, over the years from regular allopathic medicine has always, apart from once when it saved my sight, ended in disaster. So, from being very young and being, jabbed and whatever, to them cutting various bits out of me, whether it's from downstairs or whether it's from upstairs with my tonsils and adenoids. Ooh, look, they're inflamed. Let's cut them out. Very short-sighted approach. All the way through to when I got very sick with rheumatoid arthritis, and then saying, well, you're never going to get better. You have to take our meds or you'll end up in a wheelchair. Puts this horrible dark cloud over you and fear mongers you into taking that stuff that then blows up your liver and detaches your retinas. So, there's only one real rant I've done. If anybody goes to my YouTube channel, there's something about a criminal rheumatologist destroys family. But, the way that they try and get kids to take their particular poison of the month, or if not, they'll get the social services and even police involved. And it's a very deep conspiracy. And I can say that, without a tinfoil hat on. And, that's not to diss the medical community, because, 99% of people go in there with the very good intentions of helping people. But what they're taught teaches them exactly how not to help people. And, the times that they've saved me was something that goes along with arthritis, which is iritis or uveitis, which they call it. And it's a very painful condition of the eye where the iris kind of glues itself onto the lens. And you end up in terrible pain every time you refocus. I mean, I'm still a bit paranoid to this day, although I haven't had it for years. And I'll sort of look up, if I have a slight sort of twinge in my eye, I'll look up to the corner of the room and then focus on my hand. And if you refocus, the pain is horrific. And if it isn't there, it's like, phew, no iritis. So you put the steroid drops there in your eye and it saves your sight. Brilliant. But these acute interventions are very, very valuable. But I think all of us will say in the realms of chronic disease, there's really nothing that they can give you. And, I probably wasted 3-4 years of my healing. And I think if I'd have known then what I know now, I'd still have a fully functioning left knee and right wrist. But, Lee and I have both got damage from being, brainwashed by the wrong dietary and lifestyle advice. And, but that's okay. You know, we've got our scars, and we can help people not to make those same mistakes. So let's see if we can get into that this evening, guys.
Yeah, I'll carry on. Fortunately, I've got a lot less experience and contact with the allopathic medical system than Phil and Lee. Not sure about Stephen, but he'll have a go. It did save my life once. When I was about 10 years old, I fell off my BMX bike and got a graze just on my on my hip, which healed up. But then I got boils down my leg, and it turned out to be septicemia. I collapsed at school, got taken to the doctors, taken to the emergency room at the Children's Hospital in Sheffield, got shown to every medical student that they could lay their hands on because it was apparently very rare. And they pumped me full of penicillin, sent me home, and I slept for 48 hours and then recovered. But yeah, it would have killed me. So we're not here to say that the modern medical system is utterly useless. There are miraculous things that they can do, but they are. I mean, for example, one example I use a lot is they can use a scan to spot a faulty heart valve from the outside without going into your body, and then they can perform surgery and replace that valve with another one and save your life. Right? That is miraculous. They are very, very good. If you fall off your motorbike at high speed and get a compound fracture, you want to be in the hospital. But like Phil says, anything chronic, forget about it. They're useless. The only times I've been to my GP in the last 10 years is for gout a few times, and they've prescribed just colchicine and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which, to be honest, because it was so acute, did help temporarily. But they are just like everyone says, they're not in the business of fixing. A patient cured is a customer lost. And the medical system is primarily bankrolled by the pharmaceutical industry and the medical device industry, but mainly pharma. And these are corporations, and corporations are required to make a profit. It's actually against the law for their directors to carry on business in a way that would harm shareholder profits. So that means if they came out with a vaccine against cancer and it prevented you getting cancer or diabetes or heart disease, right, it would be illegal for them to allow that to go to the market, because they sell drugs for these things. It would harm the profits, and the shareholders could stop them from doing it. Right? That's how stupid the situation is. But that's what we've got. If anyone wants to know more about this, the best book on the whole background of it is probably Rockefeller Medicine Men, which tells the story of how from the end of the 19th century, Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller cornered. It was an aggressive buyout. A hostile takeover of the entire medical education system and the medical system, so that it was in favor of pharmaceuticals. And they effectively outlawed every homeopathic, naturopathic practice and practitioner in the United States. And the same thing has happened everywhere else. But I'll shut up now, pass on to Lee.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've dealt with the medical system a fair bit myself. Originally just went down there quite naive and innocent, didn't know about this at all, very blue pill, stuck in the matrix, kind of just went along with things, went down with my symptoms. And I think even in that moment, just expecting some kind of drug, didn't think really that was sort of an alien thing. To me, that's kind of what you expect. You have a problem, you go down to your GP, you get a drug, you're on the right track. You're on perhaps this course where you're going to start to mend, maybe even cure. I genuinely believe that this is what medicine did. Thought it made you better. It's dead right what Ben Hunt is saying. This stuff is way back with John D. Rockefeller. He figured, there's not a lot of money to be made with all of these healthy people and these sick people all the time. You've got these repeat customers and stuff. Obviously he had all these oil refineries. He pretty much pioneered the first monopoly with the oil, and the government didn't really like that very much. And then all of a sudden he realized he would make so much more money taking his oil and producing drugs using the, he figured out a way to synthesize drugs using the oil, and he would make just sort of millionfold in terms of the profit margins. And so that's what it's all about. It is about money. Unfortunately, a lot of eugenics as well going on in the history. It's a very, very dark, shady history. A lot of power and greed, but it just never seemed to be enough, And I think that he obviously wanted to take, like you said, he took over, I think, with Abraham Flexner, I think his name was, and his brother, that ran this institute that Rockefeller set up, and basically helped, like Ben was saying, take over the medical school and how they educated people. He kind of bought this, is it IG Farben in, it's like a huge pharmaceutical conglomerate in Germany to make this possible. And they started to get to all these kind of board of directors and stuff like that. And they with their power and their money and buying up all this stuff, they managed to get the monopoly on the medical system. And so, they call it healthcare. They don't care about your health. Healthy people don't make these people money. I was just in a store with Lucy a moment ago, and it's amazing. You look at the ingredients on this package of absolutely everything. It's just prawns. You think that it just looks like prawns. There's sugar in there. There's oils in there. They just inject poison in as much as they can, like absolutely everything, barring maybe one pack down each aisle, which might be a sensible option, And it starts there. All of these companies, these huge companies, are working together. It started with psychopaths. There's different psychopaths today who's still running this corrupt system. And now you've got people like Bill Gates, and all this eugenics and depopulation, these horrible agendas. It's disgusting, and I can't help but feel bitter about how I've been failed in the medical system. It sucks that I had to go through what I had to go through, being in the hospital. When you read these silly healthy choice options on the menu are the worst things on the menu. It's crazy that things, be careful, butter, salt, meat. It's like, that's the stuff, if anything, that you want to be opting for. Is completely backward. I go into my GP and he tells me, drink a beer a night. You need to eat more fiber. This is the kind of advice that I got from probably people that aren't even corrupt, that actually believe that they're offering this wonderful service. And they do. If you break something, if you're in a horrific accident, yes, you can get a scan. This stuff is very, very clever technology. But really, when it comes down to it, it's misanthropic, it's vile, it's disgusting. And, we need to take care of our own health. I'm in my, 36 years old, but it wasn't until I was sort of 33, 34 when I started to figure, okay, this is down to me. I've got to not eat that muffin. I've got to, and educate yourself and start taking care of yourself. And it turns out that most of the stuff that we've been told, you should be doing the complete opposite, But like I say, dark shade history, yeah, definitely look into it. A lot of eugenics. You've got that, trying to think now, there was a Planned Parent organization that was set up. And this was to, again, right, by Rockefeller, this was to kind of prevent pregnancies in women. And the guy that ran this organization once upon a time is Bill Gates' father. And Bill Gates is he's totally into eugenics, it's depopulation. So the history continues to be written, and it's not going to get any better. It's disgusting. And so this is why we're doing this. This is why we've got our channels. We're passionate. We've found some kind of belief and peace. And I think that's why the carnivore community is so humble and generous with their time and the way they are with people. I think we're really genuine people. We've suffered, we're fed up. And here we are trying to get the truth out. And this is what it is. I'm sure there's probably one or two naysayers and vegans, but this isn't a conspiracy. This is reality. And so wake up, take that red pill.
Excellent rant, Lee. Excellent. Loved it. Spot on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. We're all interested in people's health and real results, not trying to knock people. And exactly what I think Ben said there. People are joining the industry, the healthcare industry, because that's what it is, with good intentions. And I think they're given very bad information, but they absolutely 100% believe it. I mean, today I was told off by an evidence-based PT that it's terrible. I'm saying don't eat fiber. How bad is that? That's going to give you colon cancer. Well, see, this person doesn't know my experience that I lost my mother to colon cancer, and she followed the guidelines to a T. She didn't eat red meat. She didn't eat any saturated fat. People have probably heard this story before. And I just literally shamed him because he's an idiot. He's not even looking at the fact that on his comment, there are hundreds of comments saying, well, I got rid of fibre and everything got better. And so that's the sort of person I find very difficult, because they reckon they've got all the evidence, but then they don't listen to anyone that tells them the opposite is what actually happened to them, the objective reality. And also they're very keen to criticize somebody who's lived it with their own parent. And if I knew what I know now, then my mum would have not died in her 50s. She would not have been eating tons of fibre and bran flakes and fruit and veg, and avoiding saturated fat and red meat, because that's the sort of thing that's good for you. And exactly what Lee said about hospital food, it's only got worse. I mean, that's it. It's got worse and worse and worse. So, right, there are some questions. I want to just say thank you to Once a Week Man, who's used a super chat, underwent an emergency eye op, currently on steroids and antibiotic eye drops. Any advice on speedy recovery would be welcome. Anyone?
I would love to know what the IOP was for.
Yes.
Before answering that, if you could drop a quick message in about what caused you to have to go in for that.
Yeah. Well, let's see if he does. In the meantime, let's go to some other questions, which is more a statement really from Tom. Should someone with Hashimoto's but not hypothyroid bother going to a GP, since they don't know what causes it anyway? What do you reckon?
Nope.
Go on, Stephen. Go on.
Well, I think it is a statement of intent, isn't it? He's already guessing not. Interesting. If you know you've got Hashimoto's, you must have had a blood test to be categoric about that. And you would have had your antibodies measured. But if you've got no symptoms, which is what you're basically saying, then do you need to go? Well, one thing, I'm going to be sort of magnanimous in here and say, if you've not spoken to your GP, you could go and just see what the SP is, what they say, and have an open mind, because we can't accuse people of not being open-minded and then say don't go and listen to them, because go and listen to them, because they actually might be enlightened. They might be able to offer you other tests. They might be interested in how come you've got this diagnosis, but you don't have any symptoms. So personally, if I was going for solutions, I would want symptoms first to be fixed. But there you go. That's my take on it. I think that's a big thing for me with numbers. I think the person is much more important than the numbers. And I think your attitude in there, I guess not, is possibly correct. Jackie,
yeah,
right.
One second, excuse me. Yeah, I think that Hashimoto's and stuff, it completely depends on your symptoms, as Stephen said, and is it worth getting blood results? It depends who's interpreting them, obviously. Send them to Stephen. If something's going horribly wrong, send them to Stephen to interpret them within the context of a carnivore diet if you're on that. But the thyroid can go a little bit crazy in its healing stage. And so some people get really paranoid and say, oh, look, keto blew up my thyroid. And I've had that in the past where people say, oh, look at the results. Oh, my doctor's really worried that I've gone on this keto or carnivore diet. It's really affecting my thyroid. But how do you feel? I feel fine. Okay, we'll test it again in a few months and see what happens. And it always normalizes. But then you get that section of people, because of the fear mongering, who say keto blew up my thyroid. And it doesn't. It's not like that. However, Once a Week Man, it's a detached retina that he had emergency surgery for. So I'd say it depends on why the retina detached. I was talking to my good friend Ross at a festival last weekend who had a similar thing. And there are a lot of factors in this. He said that the last straw for him was getting into some headlock in martial arts, and that triggered the sort of last rip on it. but it depends why the retina has been weakened. And that can be down to all kinds of things, from a lifetime of bad eating to what was it that Nick was telling me about and Ross was telling me about? Yes, if the retina detaches, then have you had any LASIK or LASIK eye surgery in the past? That's something that can also trigger retinal detachments, which is something I'm a little bit paranoid about, having had that myself in 2006 and had the wonderful gift of great sight without contact lenses and shades that probably ruined my whole melanin production over those 30 years. But it can change the shape of the eyeball. If you go to what's it called, endmyopia.org, Jake Steiner's site, and see what actually LASIK and LASIK can do to change the shape of the eyeball, cause floaters, little bleeds, retinal detachment. But you know, just whatever you can do to get the light right and to get all our usual advice will help with recovery. I don't think there's anything specific, although somebody put in the comments there, Cyril, maybe, you know, the stem cells up, you know, contact Stephen, me, Ben, whatever. I don't think Lee's into it yet, but there's Cyril stuff that could help with stem cell release that could hasten recovery. There we go.
Yeah.
But really just whatever you're doing, but it depends what caused it. It depends. Maybe if you've had LASIK eye surgery or something like that, there might be another component.
Phil, our other mutual friend Nick, he's on 8 Stem Enhance Ultra per day in the attempt to repair his eye. He's had several surgeries as well, hasn't he? On there.
He has, and once
a week, man says he's on 4 a day of Stem Enhance. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, you know, I have a great friend of mine. I won't mention who it is here, but she had one jab and then got a retinal detachment straight away. And it's the only symptom she's had, touch wood, but there's also a lot of that. So I doubt if you have, you know, being here, I doubt if there's many you have, but that seems to be something that's coming after the jabs as well. Another thing about retinal health, the last Carnivore conference we did in Spain, which we have 6 rooms left for, so get booked. I think it's 6. Ben's got tallying them up. But there was a guy there called Bruce Duvet, and he on the second day he came up to Jeremy and me, opened his laptop and said, "Can I show you some of my case histories?" You never know who turns up to these things, do you? Which is why it's such a good idea of Ben's to do that kind of circle with the chairs, like, why are you here? Who are you? What's your story? Okay, 7 rooms left, or 2 yurts, 5 rooms, something like that. But anyway, we had a chat with Bruce. He opened his laptop and he showed us these results that he was getting. Now, Bruce Duvet, you won't find him online. He's an Australian guy, I think, and he's been holding about 70 odd. Skinny, unassuming guy. We didn't know who he was. And I think he's got some kind of clinic in Dublin, and he keeps everything right under the radar. He's been helping people reverse cancer for decades and all sorts. But he came up with his case studies on his laptop. And he said, before I take on any case, whatever it is, I'll take photographs of their retina. And afterwards, I'll take photographs as well. So before and after. And he could see all new blood vessels and everything reconstructing in the retina. And it's very difficult. You know, people say macular degeneration and whatever is not reversible. But he was seeing a load of these amazing results, and he'd always do it no matter what. And his protocol was 1 day feasting, 3 days fasting. 1 day feasting, 3 days fasting. And he was healing people up with this, but he'd realized that in that 1 day of feasting, it was much more efficacious to make it a carnivore day instead of just eat what you like. But he was still getting amazing results with just eat what you like. So maybe a cycle of a big carnivore feast day, eat whatever you like, eat a whole elk, whatever, and then 3 days fasting, then 1 day feasting, 3 days fasting. But also all the blue lights into the eyes, take care of your eyes and all of that kind of thing. But that was Bruce Duvet's protocol, which really impressed me back then in 2019, that you could probably improve on if that day of feasting was carnivore instead of everything. But there we go.
Yes. So just to the guys there, I don't know why we can't post links to the Big Fat Challenge, but we'll put it in the description. I was trying to put it in the chat for you, but I can't do that. Right.
I think
by the way,
it's gone up in the chat. I can see it.
Oh, right. Okay. Macular degeneration can be reversed, and in Europe and in Southern America, they have red light therapy that reverses macular degeneration by getting rid of the drusen, the protein at the back of the eye. But anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about this. So, Lee, this might be something you want to have a little word about. Jackie says, my history of having poorly organs cut out just gives a new set of symptoms.
Well, I mean, I've certainly had my symptoms right after having them sort of tamper. Yeah, definitely. Trying to think really after my ileostomy. I mean, yeah, I mean, in a sense, you wind up with a bag. I wound up with a bag, and that's changed my life in many ways. My sleep, the convenience of not having a colon. It kind of sucks because you have to kind of change the way you live. And yeah, we have all of our body parts for a reason. They all serve a purpose. I know the appendix might not be so important, but that we are, created, designed, whatever you believe, evolved in this way for a reason. And you start cutting things out. It's like taking a tooth out. All of a sudden, the two teeth either side, there's more pressure on those teeth, and then it's like a domino effect. So absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Right. I thought you were going to talk a little bit longer, but I'm going to join this together, you see, because it's actually to you, Lee. Did you get to educate any other patients or medical staff on low carb stroke carnivore whilst you were in hospital?
There was one young lady who was in training, and there was a Filipino senior she was lovely. We had a nice conversation and we were connecting on some things, and then she would say other things. And every now and again, you just think it's not worth it, especially if it's going to stress me out even just a little bit of thought. It's only been 2 days, only been 3 days. After about a week, they came back in, and their jobs were to speed up recovery, maximize recovery with all these little different tricks. And it's really, to be honest with you, it was sort of patronizing. I felt patronized a little bit the way they were talking. Some of the things they were saying was just utterly pointless, really. But they have this little form that you fill out every day. How many steps did you walk unassisted? Have you done this? Have you done all of that sort of stuff? Anyway, I was finally getting onto the topic because she brought up what she would eat, Philippines, blah, 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 blah. And then we sort of got into it. And it was she was a little bit kind of egotistical, being, certainly because she was teaching. I think a lot of them, they quite like the fact that you're vulnerable in the hospital and then they know something and that they're there. And I know a lot of them are genuinely interested, genuinely there to help. But some of these people, I feel like they get a kick out of knowing something and sort of being this powerful figure over someone that's in need and in help. And I have the answers for you. And actually you don't. The younger lady, she sort of perked up and she was asking questions. And so I'm really hoping that she actually looks into a few things, I did talk to some other people, certain carers and things like that. But honestly, my experience when I've talked to the surgeons, the doctors, it definitely tests their ego. No doubt that my surgeon said, is this all in your head? Because I very clearly stated when they said, do you have any allergies? I said, codeine is one. But the other was not really an allergy, but all plants. I said all plants. And the very first thing is that they said is, oh, so you're not going to be taking the Ensure shake? And I was like, absolutely not. No way. You look at the ingredients, that's pure toxic, pure toxins you're going to pour down. You want me to fast and then you're going to poison me and now we're going to do surgery. That doesn't make any sense. He said, do you think it's just all in your head or is this something, it's the way he said it. It was kind of like, wow, you really have no clue, do you? You genuinely think the orange juice and the muffin and whatever is the healthy choice. That's actually what you believe. I can't get my head around it. You earn 6 figures a year doing what you do. You're in this blue light all the time in the middle of the night. You have absolutely not the first clue about general health and well-being, what a proper human diet is, what a proper human lifestyle is. And so honestly, a lot of the time I just don't bother. It's just gonna, certainly in that situation, you know. But I'm hoping that young lady, I can't remember her name, she sort of perked up, and when I said, you know, all these plants, you can put every edible plant in a bowl, you fall short of all these nutrients, and all the essential nutrients are in the right form is found in just meat alone. This, because they would a lot of them would ask and say, oh, you know, you don't want any, you're going to just eat that. Okay, it's a big chunk of beef. Who's brought in this beef? You know, and these eggs and the chicken and stuff like that. And you sometimes have a bit of a conversation with certain people, but she's the only one that showed any interest, and it's probably because she's young and she's learning. And I don't think the older one liked it very much. You know, she's probably going against what she's saying, and yeah, she's trying to train her way, and it's totally like, it's insulting, honestly. Some of the stuff that they were saying, it's just ridiculous. You think, really, you got to say that? Like, that's just a common sense thing, but you have no clue about this other stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't bother. I think it would just raise your blood sugar, raise your blood pressure going in there, try and have a conversation with any of them, honestly.
Isn't it crazy? Well, you actually ask people, what is it in these fruits and vegetables that my body needs then that I'm not getting from the meat?
Right.
And they say, well, everyone knows there's things in them, you know, like polyphenols or whatever. And if anyone's seen the movie Idiocracy, it's just like this thing that everyone knows that Braundo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes, you know. It's the same idiocy, isn't it?
Yeah. They offer some minerals. Get a bit of vitamin C, but you're not really going to get much if you're eating all these carbs. You know, you eat plants, it offsets balance. If you're eating steak and eggs and you add any plant to that, you just offset balance. You just depleted nutrients. Now you don't have more of a balanced diet. You've offset balance just by adding any plant. So
yeah, well, that's interesting that you say that, because I got a thought about vitamin C here, you see. So somebody saying they're carnivore for 4 months, feel amazing apart from arthritic hands. I'm a painter decorator. It's good that you turned up on time, and play a lot of guitar. On waking, my hands can be really sore. Hoping in time my joints will ease up. I think that's very true.
Listen, the only people who turn up later than painter decorators are guitarists. Believe me.
Now this is where supplementation, which sort of Richard was here, can sometimes help, because I think, you know, a good vitamin C supplement might help with the collagen synthesis if you're going this way. I don't think you need to necessarily do that, but if you wanted to try it, it would be something that you could try. But I'm coming back to allopathic medicine. See, this is completely different to saying take a painkiller, and that would be the allopathic route. Well, you just take a painkiller and work through it. Well, what's happening there is you're not getting to the source of the problem, which is possibly collagen, is possibly just as you're adapting. Oddly enough, as the inflammation comes down, people read it differently, and they're used to this sort of inflamed, sort of slightly bulbous joints and stuff like that. And then when they get down to the proper sort of body composition, at first it feels a bit like pain, but then it starts to actually flourish. So, you know, that sort of calm before the storm sort of thing. But I would think 4 months into it, feeling amazing is a sign that you're going the right way. Anyone else?
Yeah. On the arthritic hands and whatever. Again, there's so many layers to this, having sort of had a load of arthritis through all sorts of joints myself. It depends what you mean by carnivore for 4 months. If that's an autoimmune issue going on in your hands, then, you know, pork, chicken, eggs and dairy are not your friend. You want to get the symptoms down with just fatty beef and lamb. It's a huge difference. It's a massive difference with joints and inflammation in the joints. However, again, you're a painter decorator, you're using your hands, you're playing a lot of guitar. It's interesting that being a drummer, the first symptom I had was in a wrist, early 90s, of that kind of thing, which they diagnosed wrong, luckily, because I'd have probably taken their meds back then. On waking, your hands can be really sore. That also points to some little autoimmune kind of issue at least, and hoping in time your joints will ease up. Well, 4 months isn't that long, particularly if you're not that strict sort of autoimmune PKD type carnivore, I'd do that. But also then where does it express? If it's only in your hands, how does anybody know? No rheumatologist will ever know. Why is it in your knee and not in your hands? Why is it in your elbow and not in your ankle? It's a huge subject to go into here, probably too much to even broach. But there's a book called The Secret Language of Your Body by Ina Segal, and have a look at that and the emotional connection with various different parts of your body. But really, get very strict on beef, lamb, salt, and water. Even a vegan diet isn't going to kill you doing that in 30 days, 90 days. See where you are. Beef. Is that the same person who asked the question? Beef, eggs, lamb, and salt plus coffee. Who asked the question? I can't remember who asked the question.
I can't remember. Sorry.
It's just, sorry, it's so confusing, Kat, following all of these. But anyway, yeah, if you are eating eggs, dairy, pork, or chicken, give them up for a bit, see what happens with the hands, and look into all the emotional stuff. And there was something you had up there, Stephen, about non-steroidal anti-inflammatories.
Yes.
Leading
basically saying it cuts the pain, but it stops the healing process, which is exactly what happens.
I remember 2010, 2011, I was dosing myself up with them just to be able to walk. And once you stop them, it comes back with even worse of a vengeance. And you're wrecking the gut and everything all at the same time. Those things are evil. If you're going to have a flare, as Natasha Campbell-McBride says, there is no such thing as bad inflammation. If you're doing the right thing, let the body do what it wants to do. Take the hit for a few days or a couple of weeks, whatever it is. Just chill out, let it happen. Because in the long run, you will be glad, because those NSAIDs or whatever, they're horrific, absolutely horrific. Bargain with the devil.
Let's get on to the next question. Oh, I'm missing Jonathan. Oh yeah, sorry, Ben, you got your hand up.
Yeah. If it is the person who said they're on coffee with carnivore, try cutting it out. I know it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things, along with sugar and wheat, I would say, to cut out. But one of our friends, Sina, she posted a video today saying, I love coffee, but coffee doesn't love me, on her Substack. If she's been on like 3 double espressos a day, if she does that too much, she gets pain in multiple joints, and it's simply the coffee. So, that's also one thing to chop out if you can. No,
absolutely.
No, you can if you want to.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I think it's that informed consent to it. If you know it's causing you problems and you then decide, well, I still want to keep it in, there you go. You've decided you prefer your coffee to your pains, right? Or getting rid of your pain. Mojo Curio, which I think is a good name. 68-year-old friend, major stroke, still in hospital 6 weeks on, prescribed 10 plus meds, diabetic, but being fed carbs and sugar. I've taken MCT oil, ghee, meat meals. How can I help before they kill her? Well, that's you're doing it. You're taking the food in. You're being supportive. That. I can't think of anything else really. Anything else, guys?
You could send her a video or so, from a reliable source, from someone like Ken or Sean or something, because some people they can't take it from their loved ones or their relatives. Some people just need to hear it from the good old doctor. And it's tricky. Obviously, some people, I know so many people are in sort of similar situations, and you can talk to them calmly, logically, and they just don't get it. They don't. Hopefully she'll take the help from you and maybe share some content. Reason it's tricky, but yeah, you're on the right track.
I would say that if she's been in hospital 6 weeks on, the acute phase is over, and if you can just possibly get her out of there and away from all the EMFs and blue light and all that kind of thing. Somebody said in the comments just a little while ago, hospitals are dangerous places. Glad you're out, Lee. Yeah. They take a lot of navigating, and that blue light. My son, who is 34 now, my eldest son, is visiting now from Thailand, and I remember like you know, when he was 12 and he had an aneurysmal bone cyst, and he had to have horrible operations from the front and the back, and titanium that's still in his neck to this day from, you know, whatever happened. And the only time, all of that, it never really upset him. He went through it so brave. And the one time that he really cried was like, will you turn the fucking lights out? It's midnight. Will you stop waking me up? Will you turn those strip lights off? I can't stand it. I need to sleep. And you've got to get... Sorry?
I've got to take your blood pressure, otherwise you might die.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. So get them out of there as quick as possible, I think, is the main thing you're doing. If you're taking her all this lovely stuff, that's fantastic. But take it round to her house rather than the hospital. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if they figured out that the blood pressure naturally changes with circadian rhythm as well. I wonder whether they've picked up on that. You know, you can take it at different times of the day and you're guaranteed to have it a little bit lower, a little bit higher because of, you know, light and stuff like hormones. It's crazy.
No, of course they haven't figured that, Lee. That's ridiculous. That's quackery.
Yeah, quackery. You're right.
So somebody suggested Ben Bickman's Why We Get Sick book. I mean, there are so many different books that you could also take in. The Lies Doctors Told Me by Ken Berry would be quite an ironic book to take into a hospital. But anyway, good suggestion, Lee, that, you know, get that sort of a doctor to say.
External encouragement as well. Something like that can help.
Yeah. So Bill Cook, question. Does anyone here eat fermented veg? No, I don't.
No.
Just haven't bothered, no. I'm sure it's pretty harmless in comparison to all the other plants.
I used to, I used to when I was like keto and whatever, and take that. But the fewer plants you eat, the fewer plant medicines that you need to offset the problems that the plants caused in the first place. And it's a hassle. I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to fry up a steak, or do you want to chop up all this cabbage and put it in a fermenting thing in the corner, and then half the batches fail because they end up really moldy on the top, or end up having a whole kitchen full of kombucha because they bred so quickly that you end up inundated with scobies? No, just seriously, just eat some meat. Don't bother with the plants. It's bollocks, I think, anyway.
Yes. No, I agree with you. Absolutely. 100%. There's no way I'm pronouncing that name. But anyway, any thoughts on allulase and its potentially beneficial properties as a natural GLP-1 agonist, Ozempic alternative? Well, I wouldn't say it was that, actually, because it doesn't actually slow down your stomach emptying. It doesn't change the motility of your small intestine. It is an artificial sweetener. So Ozempic, which is the brand name there, its sort of mechanism is to make you less hungry, and like I say, the stomach emptying and the small intestine issues. And why would you want an alternative to that anyway? Because although you lose a lot of weight, I find this very interesting, by the way, because it doesn't seem to be picked up by all the big doctors. Yes, you get the weight loss, but you also get muscle loss. And it's something like for every 8 kilograms of body fat you lose 5 kilograms of muscle. And I think most people, even in the mainstream, know that you lose longevity benefits if you have sarcopenia. If you're losing muscle is really important. It's really difficult to gain muscle as you get older, especially when you're not eating carnivore or resistance training. Now, many people say, well, muscle loss is just a side effect of losing weight, but that actually isn't true. And that's been proven many times, because the argument on the sort of allopathic side is when you lose weight, you don't need so much muscle because you're not shifting around a 200-pound body, you're shifting around a 150-pound body. No, it would be really good to lose all that body fat, but retain the muscle. That would be really good. And the experiments that they've done on weight loss and muscle loss shows that if you incorporate some weight training, you won't lose anything. And in fact, the smartest experiment I've ever seen was these people were losing weight, but they had a vest which they wore throughout the day. And let's say in a week they lost 3 kilograms. They put 3 kilograms of weight into the vest and it retained the muscle. So that it wasn't much really to just retain the muscle. But what was happening with the people without the vest, they were losing the body fat and they were also losing muscle. So the body's pretty smart. It's better to do some training and keep that muscle mass. But if you could sort of do it with the vest and do it all the time, you haven't even got to go back to the gym. You just maintain that muscle. You don't lose it in the first place. But that's obviously not happening. People are going on Ozempic and they are losing tons of muscle mass. So, 5 kilograms for every 8 kilogram, and people are losing sort of 80. These very, very big people are losing a lot of weight. So they're going to be losing a lot of muscle. Something like that. Anyway, so that was me off the top of my head. I should get the facts and figures, but that's roughly what's happening. So have you got any thoughts, guys?
Not really, to be honest with you. No, nothing to add.
Okay, right. Well, we'll go on to the next one.
Just eat food. That's all you need to worry about.
Yes. Yeah, I think Ozempic, there are some doctors in the low carb community saying, well, yeah, it does seem to be doing some good because people are losing weight, but they're losing a lot of muscle mass at the same time. I just don't get it why they're just looking at that. But then again, I just said low carb doctors, so maybe they're still allopathic. They're still liking the weight loss just on its own, not worrying about other things. I started Carnivore at the beginning of March. Mid-April, I had a stroke and spent 48 hours in hospital. Sorry to hear that. Would appreciate some advice on gaining some weight to keep the doctor off my back.
Chug loads of dairy.
Milk, yeah. Milk will do it.
All I can think, milk, butter.
It depends on the weight as well. It depends on what, are you just a healthy weight? Maybe you're actually a healthy weight. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, dairy will certainly work for sure.
Yeah, all of that. But again, training will bring it back on. It depends, if you want to impress your doctor or if you want to feel really good, because the doctor sees mostly fat people.
Yeah.
But if you come in thinner than most of his patients, then he's going to think there's something wrong. But the problem is there's something wrong with the rest of them, probably. So
yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel? If you want to put weight on, train.
So think like hard resistance work. We're not talking about cardio. Hard resistance, build bone density, build some muscle mass. That will also increase your appetite as well. And eat as much butter as you can.
Excellent. Let's go to the next question, which thank you for the super chat. It's Ribeye Rob. Can someone on the panel talk about taurine in a Welsh accent, please? Oh boy, oh. Then I will feel like the whole gang is present.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Tom Jones.
No, I'm not even going to try.
I'm crap at accents. Whatever I try, everything comes out Pakistani. So I'm not going to go for it. But yeah, we miss him too.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about taurine then, but in a whatever accent you want?
It's fantastic.
I don't think it was a serious question.
No, you go for the taurine thing, Stephen. I just make sure my cat gets enough, and that's all I ever think about, really.
Yeah. Well, taurine, an amino acid in meat, which is very good for you. Right. Well, we've run out of questions, actually. I was worried that we were going to get to the point where we're waffling on too much. Was there any questions or any comments in the chat that you thought you'd like to pick up?
Not that I can see.
Well, there's a good one from Barris something here. Dairy is not good for thyroid or prostate, and I think that's spot on. I don't think it's good for anything, to be honest. It is good for putting weight on if you're carnivore and you can't be asked to train, but I agree. I don't think it's the right thing, and the best thing is to put on muscle and bone density, as Ben said, and not fat. So dairy will put fat on without eating all the plants, but yeah, I agree. It's not just thyroid and prostate.
Yeah. Well, there was a comment I wanted to comment on, because I've gone 180 degrees on this. Because Jackie said hospitals are very dangerous places. I'm so glad you're out. Well, I've just taken the first part. Hospitals are very dangerous places. In my 20s, when my mother was in and out of intensive care, I genuinely thought it was the best place to be. and I didn't even want her to come home. And that's how my life has changed so much. I can actually remember, well, two things really. Whenever she went home, if I was driving around and I saw an ambulance, my first thought was, well, that's picking my mum up. I'm going to have to drive home. She was that ill. And I really 100% thought this is the best place. So there are people out there that really do believe that, and they're not stupid, but they're brainwashed, you know. So that's it. I mean, I thought I was pretty on it with fitness and health.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, you're in
sorry.
the right place. You're in the right place. That's like basically every time you hear anyone on the phone in the hospital, isn't it? Oh, well, you're in the right place. I realise for sure, 100%, absolutely not. Whatever it is, I understand. I'm very grateful for the pain relief. They make some great pain relief. I'm very grateful for the anaesthetics. You know, it's not too long ago where before that point in time, that threshold, we were literally going and having procedures and surgeries without little to no pain relief and anaesthetic. It's unbelievable. But, you know, I'm very grateful for all of that. But when you're talking about, you know, healing, the blue light, the constant disturbance in the middle of the night, and all of the contraindicated poisons that they feed you round the clock for 8 days. They sent me home with so much oxycodone. I realised, by the way, that every time I took oxycodone, I would be sitting over a pillow about 20 to 40 minutes later in agony. I just stopped taking it. Guess what happened? Pain went. So,
yeah, but look on the bright side. You could start dealing with it to get some of that money back that YouTube nicked off you.
Yeah. I mean, no, I won't do that.
See, I remember.
Stephen,
Sorry, Ben.
There's 2 more questions have come in.
Go for it.
At the last minute. Right, Polish Mike says, do any of you remember or still see and use therapeutic suction cups? My grandma put those on me when I was sick as a kid. Nowadays, everyone recommends pills. Not I. Anyone else?
No.
And what was the last one?
The other one was, so Tom J says, Phil, I take it you don't agree with Dr. Natasha about dairy then? So she considers fermented food and dairy essential for gapsters.
Well, you know, I see what Natasha how she's changed in her message over the past 12, 14 years or whatever. And she's going much more towards carnivore and less towards the fermented veg. But I'm going to be really interested because, you know, the carnivore conference that Ben and I are organizing in August, both Zofia Clements, who is totally against dairy, any dairy, and raw dairy is worse than pasteurized. And both Sophia and Natasha are going to be there. And I'm going to be just following them around to wait until they have some kind of a fight and one's holding the other one's head down in a swimming pool or something. I want to hear what they say. For me, I have an open mind. I feel better without dairy, any sort of dairy. And I just look at nature and I go, you know, like Ben says, that milk is, or of any species, is supposed to grow a small animal into a large animal. And when people come off a SAD diet or a vegan diet or whatever, and they go to a carnivore diet, including dairy, they're going to have amazing results. But my results when I dropped dairy from the carnivore diet were also huge. And I see that with all sorts of autoimmune people too. But if you want to go actually and see, you know, probably my 2 heroes, which is Zofia and Natasha, talking about whether dairy is a good thing or not, then get to Spain and see it live. If there's a fight, we'll video it and we'll get it on YouTube. No, they won't. They're both very cool and they both eat a load of meat, so no one's going to get upset. But I'm just open to it, and either way. But I just feel better personally without it. So I don't think it's necessary. And I think it's best to drop it right out if you're healing and see where you are. Bring it back in if you want, but yeah, bring donuts back in if you want. It's not up to us to tell you what to eat, but make up your own mind. But I'm more on Zophia's side on the dairy than Natasha. But yeah, what the hell? Let's see.
I'd say definitely if you've got autoimmunity, fix your gut first. It's always fix the gut first. You need to drop dairy if you're going to try and fix the gut. Some people think then it's maybe a good idea to add some kefir or some, you know, maybe even a drop of raw milk, perhaps a little bit with taurine before you go to bed, stuff like that. And then that can help sort of repopulate biome and stuff like that. Again, at your own risk, you might find that you kind of go back and forth and then you wind up saying, you know, I'm done with dairy. But there are some people with pastoral genes that seem to do better with dairy. Jackie K was just asking for an alternative for calcium. From, if she was not going to have yogurt, and I would just say, sardines with the bones, salmon with the bones, and a bit of bone broth is great. If you actually eat taurine, you're gonna, because it's an osmolyte, you will upregulate calcium, keep calcium in the cells and stuff like that. So taurine, that's the only supplement I'm taking. It's a free form taurine. Nature's Life is the one that Harry Sopanos recommends. Actually, he's got quite a lot of videos on dairy. It's all interesting because we all have some different takes, but I think definitely if you've got gut issues, you've got autoimmunity, drop the dairy, fix the gut first. You might want to sort of experiment a little bit with things. You might find it works for you, maybe it doesn't, but we're all different.
Yeah, can I just quickly, and Jackie's saying alternative calcium source for oxalate kidney stones than yogurt, please. Well, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need to go carnivore and dump the oxalates. But it depends whether you want to rip the bandage off and do it quickly, like I did, and end up with kidney stones as the oxalates come out. But I wouldn't say too much about, the binding of oxalates with calcium to get it through. I don't know whether that really holds any water, but I would say if you're worried about dumping oxalates too quickly, look into Sally Norton's book. Have a listen to my podcast, the Red Pill Buddha's podcast that I did with Sally, because we discussed a lot about kidney stones and how long after you've even had any oxalates they can dump. But she has certain ideas with citrates and this and that for, lemon juice, calcium citrate, magnesium citrate, potassium citrate, for helping the body to dump the oxalates more safely without forming stones. But I don't know. I'm a bit simpler than that. If I got to take a hit and have a couple of kidney stones, what the hell? Let's get them out as quickly as possible. But that is not medical advice, kids. Have a look at Sally's stuff on that. Really big subject.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap up now, and I just want to say, Jonathan, thank you for coming on and supporting, even though you couldn't get on screen. We never did talk about the lack of preventative care, really, or invasive procedures and all the things I was talking about at the beginning, but we went with your questions, which is great. Very specific questions, actually. But I just want to say very quickly my story. When I was told 23, I'd been in a wheelchair by the time I'm 50. I was taken off a squash court on a stretcher while my friend, who had a very fantastic sense of humor, was bending over and touching his toes because I was absolutely stretched out in agony. But it was very funny to show me how agile he was. It was funnier than it sounds, by the way. Anyway, so I was taken off, and their treatment was laughing gas, then pain meds. Didn't really work, and I checked myself out actually in absolute agony. And because my flatmate or my housemate had said you should try an osteopath, and I had osteopathic spinal manipulation, and the pain went like that, absolutely like that, which is incredible. So yes, if you think that's woo-woo, it didn't matter to me. It worked. And I just want to thank everybody. So Phil Escott, you can see and get in contact with Phil at thebigfatchallenge.com. Same with Ben Hunt, thebigfatchallenge.com. See, they're both here. They get 2 mentions. Lee there is at the Kent Carnivore, brilliant YouTube channel. And you can see me at the ukcarnivore.com. So thanks everyone for your questions.
Thank you.